Emma Hartley was 38 years old, and the day her husband David handed her tickets to a luxury wellness retreat in Bali, telling her she needed to relax and find herself. She should have known something terrible was hiding behind that perfect smile. But when she went back to the house, because she'd forgotten her anxiety medication, she heard David on a video call in his office. The words coming out of his mouth turned her blood to ice. The insurance policy is for $500,000, and she just updated her will last month, leaving everything to me. Once she's gone, I can finally sell this place and start fresh with you. In that moment, standing frozen in the hallway of her own home, Emma took a deep breath and thought, if that's how you want to play it, David, then game on. But you're about to find out you married the wrong woman to underestimate. Because her husband of 12 years, the man she'd sacrificed her entire career for, had just made the biggest mistake of his life. If David thought Emma was the fragile, broken woman he'd spent years creating, he was about to discover just how wrong he was. Because when a woman has been systematically manipulated and controlled for over a decade, when she finally sees the truth, she doesn't just survive. She becomes dangerous. But first, Emma needed to get on that plane to Bali and turn David's death trap into his prison sentence. It had all started 3 days earlier when David came home from work with a golden envelope from an exclusive travel agency. Emma, he said, pulling her into an embrace that felt slightly too tight, too performative. I have something amazing for you. You've been so stressed lately, so anxious. Linda and I decided you need a real break. He opened the envelope to reveal a complete travel package to the Amara Wellness Retreat in Ubud, Bali. 2 weeks of spa treatments, meditation, yoga, organic meals, and luxury accommodations overlooking rice terraces and cliff sides. It was the kind of trip Emma used to dream about back when she was a senior marketing director earning 6 figures. Back before David convinced her to give it all up. David, this must have cost a fortune, she said, genuinely touched despite the strange unease settling in her stomach. We can't afford this right now. Emma, there's no price on your mental health, David replied, using that soft, concerned voice he'd perfected over the past 3 years. You've been struggling so much with your anxiety and panic attacks. Dr. Raymond agrees you need a complete change of environment. This is exactly what you need to heal. Dr. Raymond, the psychiatrist David had insisted she see after her first panic attack 3 years ago. The doctor who'd prescribed medication that left her foggy and compliant. The doctor who documented her deteriorating mental state in careful detail. Are you coming with me? Emma asked, though something told her she already knew the answer. I wish I could, but the Anderson deal is in its critical phase. I can't leave the company right now. But honestly, Em, this is about you. You need time alone to focus on your recovery without worrying about me or anything else. Just pure healing. Pure healing. Emma noticed the way David's eyes didn't quite meet hers when he said it. The way his smile seemed practiced rather than genuine. But she pushed the feeling down, the way she'd learned to push down so many feelings over the past 12 years. When do I leave? She asked. Monday morning. I know it's fast, but they had a last-minute cancellation and I grabbed it. You need this now, Emma. Not next month or next year. Now. The urgency in his voice should have been her first warning. But Emma was used to dismissing her instincts. David had trained her well over the years, convincing her that her gut feelings were just anxiety, that her concerns were paranoia, that she was too unstable to trust her own perceptions. That night, lying in bed next to David, Emma thought about the woman she used to be. Emma Chin Hartley, senior marketing director at Stratford & Associates. She'd been a rising star in the advertising world, earning $160,000 a year at age 30, being courted by competitors, working with Fortune 500 clients. She'd been confident, sharp, decisive. People had valued her opinion. Her campaigns had won awards. Then she met David at a networking event. He was launching a tech startup and wanted marketing advice. Their first conversation had lasted 3 hours, and Emma had felt seen in a way she'd never experienced before. David seemed to appreciate not just her body or her charm, but her mind, her expertise, her strategic thinking. They married 2 years later, and for the first year, everything was perfect. But gradually, things began to shift. David started commenting on her stress levels, her work hours, how little time they spent together. He talked about starting a family soon, about how Emma's demanding career would make it difficult to be the mother she'd want to be. He mentioned how much pressure his startup was under, how he needed support at home. One compromise led to another. Emma cut back her hours, then turned down a promotion that would have meant more travel. Then, during a particularly difficult quarter at David's company, she resigned completely to support him through the crisis. Just temporarily, David had promised. Once things stabilize, you'll go back. But right now, I need you. That had been 7 years ago. David's company had stabilized and even grown moderately successful. But Emma had never returned to work. The gap in her resume grew too large to explain. Her contacts moved on. Her skills became outdated. And somehow, imperceptibly, Emma had transformed from an independent professional into a financially dependent housewife with no children, no career, and no identity outside of being Mrs. David Hartley. The panic attacks started 3 years ago at a dinner party David hosted for his business partners. Emma had been in the kitchen preparing dessert when suddenly her heart started racing, her chest constricting, her hands shaking so violently she dropped a tray of glasses. David had rushed in, held her while she hyperventilated, and taken her to the bedroom. "This is serious, Em," he'd said with deep concern. "We need to get you help immediately." The next day, he'd made an appointment with Dr. Raymond. The doctor asked about her stress, her mood, her general anxiety. Emma admitted she felt overwhelmed sometimes, though she couldn't quite explain why. Her life should have been easy. No job, no children, a beautiful home, and a devoted husband. What did she have to be anxious about? Dr. Raymond diagnosed generalized anxiety disorder and prescribed medication. David picked up the prescription that same afternoon and watched Emma take the first pill. The medication made her feel disconnected, foggy, like she was experiencing life from behind a thick pane of glass. But David assured her it was normal, that it took time to adjust, that eventually she'd feel better. Emma kept taking the pills because she trusted David. She trusted Dr. Raymond. She trusted that everyone knew what was best for her better than she knew herself. Looking back now, she realized the medication had coincided with David becoming more controlling. More decisions were made for her own good. More of her friendships faded as David found reasons why they couldn't see people. Her old colleague Jessica Chun called several times suggesting lunch, but David always had an excuse. Jessica was too busy. The timing was bad. Jessica wouldn't understand their current lifestyle. Eventually, Jessica stopped calling. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Emma finished packing her suitcase with the clothes David had selected, the toiletries he'd organized, the books he thought she'd enjoy. She was putting her anxiety medication in her carry-on bag when she realized she'd forgotten to take her morning dose. She went to the master bathroom and opened the medicine cabinet. The orange prescription bottle sat on the second shelf. But as she reached for it, she heard David's voice from downstairs. He must have come back from his morning run. Emma was about to call down to him when something in his tone stopped her. It wasn't the warm, affectionate voice he used with her. This was colder, more businesslike. He was on a call, probably work-related. The house had strange acoustics. Sometimes sound carried up the central stairwell in unexpected ways. Emma could hear David clearly now, and he was definitely on a video call in his office. "Yes, I'm sure no one will suspect anything," a woman's voice said, young and sweet. A healthy 38-year-old woman suddenly dying on vacation? Emma's hand froze on the medicine bottle. "She's not healthy, that's the point." David's voice was crisp, confident, proud. "I've spent 3 years building a documented history of mental instability. The medication, the therapy, the panic attacks in front of witnesses. Everyone knows Emma isn't herself anymore. Everyone thinks she's fragile, unstable, depressed. When something happens in Bali, people will be sad but not shocked." The medicine bottle slipped from Emma's fingers and clattered into the sink, but David was still talking, hadn't heard. "The insurance policy is for $500,000, David continued matter-of-factly. "And she just updated her will last month, leaving everything to me. The property alone is worth $800,000. Once she's gone, I can finally sell this place and start fresh with you. Once she's gone." The words hung in the air like poison. There was a pause, then David laughed. It was his deal-closing laugh, the one he used when he'd successfully negotiated something to his advantage. "That's the beauty of it, Vanessa. She has documented anxiety, panic attacks, she's on medication. The resort is right near cliffs and the ocean. Tourists have accidents all the time. A few drinks, a nighttime walk too close to the edge. It'll be tragic, but not suspicious. I've already planted seeds with Dr. Raymond about her being unstable. Hell, I've planted seeds with everyone. Our friends, our neighbors, even her own family thinks she's been struggling for years. Vanessa. The name clicked into place. Vanessa Brooks, David's executive assistant. The pretty 26-year-old blonde he'd hired 18 months ago. Emma had met her once at a company event, and Vanessa had looked at Emma with something between pity and contempt, as if she were an obstacle to be removed. Are you absolutely sure no one will suspect murder? Vanessa pressed. Murder? David scoffed. No one's going to see it as murder. They'll see it as a tragic accident, maybe even suicide. I've been so careful, Vanessa. The one-way ticket. Emma doesn't even know it's one-way yet. When she realizes at the resort, she'll think it's an error. By the time she thinks to call me about it, it'll be too late. What about the person you hired there? Can we trust him? Anton Kuzma has arranged accidents for wealthy clients for years. Very discreet, very professional. I've paid him $10,000 as a deposit. Another $40,000 when it's done. He knows exactly what to do. Emma will mention taking a sunset walk or a cliffside meditation session. I've already suggested she try those in my text to her, and Anton will make sure she doesn't come back. Emma sank to the bathroom floor, her legs unable to support her. Her heart was racing, but for the first time in 3 years, she knew it wasn't anxiety. It was clarity. Terrible, devastating clarity. Her husband had spent years systematically destroying her identity, isolating her from everyone who might help her, documenting her as mentally unstable, all to set up the perfect murder. He'd poisoned her reality so thoroughly that even her own family would believe she'd had a tragic accident or taken her own life. No one would question it because David had spent 3 years making sure no one would question it. I need to get to the office, David was saying now. The Anderson deal actually closes this week, which is perfect timing. When Emma's accident happens, I'll be here, in meetings with witnesses, completely devastated when I get the call from Bali. I love you, Vanessa purred. I can't wait until we can finally be together, finally live the life we deserve. Soon, David promised. 2 weeks. Then everything changes. Emma heard him end the call, his footsteps moving through the house, the front door opening and closing, his car starting in the driveway. She remained on the bathroom floor, shaking, her mind reeling. For several minutes, she simply sat there, processing the impossible truth. Then, slowly, a different feeling began to replace the shock. Not fear, not despair. Rage. Cold, clarifying, strategic rage. David thought he'd broken her. He thought he'd created a weak, compliant, mentally unstable woman who would be easy to eliminate. He thought the sharp, successful marketing executive he'd married had been completely erased. He'd underestimated her so completely that he'd laid out his entire plan where she could overhear it, never imagining she'd have the presence of mind to act on the information. Emma pulled herself up from the floor and looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. But behind the shock, she saw something she hadn't seen in years. The woman she used to be. The strategist. The competitor. The woman who'd built million-dollar campaigns and outmaneuvered rivals. That woman was still there, buried under layers of manipulation and medication, but not dead. If David wanted to send her to Bali to die, she would go to Bali. But not as his victim. As the architect of his destruction. Emma's mind began to work at full speed, the way it used to when she was solving complex marketing problems. She needed evidence. She needed allies. She needed to document everything and build an unassailable case. And she needed to do it all while appearing to be the fragile, naive woman David expected. She pulled out her phone and recorded a detailed voice memo describing everything she'd overheard, including every word she could remember. She noted the date, time, and circumstances. Then she transferred $5,000 from her checking account to a new account at a different bank, one David didn't know about. It was all the money she had independently, but it was something. Next, she looked at the prescription bottle in the sink. Whatever was in those pills, it wasn't helping her. It was controlling her, keeping her foggy and compliant. Emma picked up the bottle, went to the toilet, and poured every single pill down the drain. She was done being medicated, done being managed, done being the woman David had tried to create. She scrolled through her phone contacts until she found a name she hadn't called in 6 years. Jessica Chun. her former colleague and friend from Stratford and Associates. The friend David had systematically distanced her from with 1,000 small excuses and subtle discouragements. Emma pressed call, her heart pounding. Emma. Jessica's voice was surprised, warm. Emma Hartley? I can't believe it's you. Jessica. Emma's voice cracked. I need help. I'm in serious trouble, and I don't know who else to call. There was a pause. Then Jessica's tone shifted, becoming focused and lawyerly. Tell me everything. Right now. Emma explained it all. The murder plot, the years of manipulation, the systematic isolation, the documented mental instability, the one-way ticket to Bali, the hired killer named Anton Kuzuma. When she finished, she waited for skepticism, for doubt, for Jessica to suggest she was overreacting. Instead, Jessica said, Emma, what you're describing is coercive control and financial abuse. Your husband has been gaslighting you for years, building documentation to support murdering you. This is incredibly serious. Are you safe right now? Where's David? He left for the office. Jessica, my flight is in 4 hours. I don't know what to do. Here's what you're going to do, Jessica said with absolute certainty. You're going to get on that plane. You're going to go to Bali. And you're going to turn David's trap into evidence that will put him in prison for the rest of his life. But you can't do this alone. I'm going to call Marcus Reed. He's a private investigator I use for corporate fraud cases. He's expensive but brilliant. I'll have him start digging into David's finances, his relationship with Vanessa, everything. We need to build a case so airtight that David can't lie his way out of it. Jessica, what if something happens to me in Bali? What if this Anton person, you're not going to let anything happen? Emma, I know you haven't been yourself for years. David made sure of that. But I remember the woman you were before him. You were one of the smartest, most strategic people I've ever worked with. That woman is still inside you. She's just been dormant. It's time to wake her up. The words hit Emma like electricity. Jessica was right. The old Emma, the successful Emma, the confident Emma, she was still there. She'd just forgotten how to access her. What about evidence? Emma asked. How do I prove any of this? Record everything. Every phone call with David, every text message, every interaction. Marcus will handle the financial investigation. But Emma, you need a criminal attorney too. Let me call Rebecca Torres. She's the best defense attorney in the state, and if this goes sideways, you'll need her. In the meantime, get to that airport. Get on that plane. And Emma? Yes. Be careful. But more importantly, be smart. You've spent 12 years being the woman David wanted. For the next 2 weeks, be the woman you actually are. After they hung up, Emma sat on her bathroom floor for one more moment, letting the clarity settle over her. Then she stood up, shoulders straight, and began to move with purpose for the first time in years. She went downstairs to David's office. His laptop was locked, but Emma knew the password. He'd made her memorize it years ago, so she could handle household admin when he was traveling. She logged in and systematically went through his files. She found emails with Vanessa dating back 18 months, discussing not just their affair, but also their future plans. Plans that explicitly required Emma to be out of the picture. She found financial documents showing David had taken a second mortgage on their house without her signature, fraud, and moved $300,000 from their joint savings into an offshore account she couldn't access. She found records of massive gambling debts, 6 figures owed to dangerous people with ominous names. She found proof that David had been bleeding money for years while maintaining the facade of success. Most damning, she found a saved chat with someone called Bali, with messages like Cliff Walk Thursday evening optimal, and make it look natural, panic, fall, ocean recovery difficult. Emma photographed everything with her phone, uploaded the images to a secure cloud account, and emailed the folder to Jessica with the subject line, Evidence, David Hartley Murder Plot. Then she cleared her browser history, locked David's laptop exactly as she'd found it, and went upstairs to finish packing. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. Have a wonderful flight, my love. Call me when you land. I'll miss you so much. Remember to take your medication. Love you, Red Heart. Emma stared at the message, at the heart emoji and loving words, and felt nothing but cold determination. She replied, Thank you for this amazing gift. I already feel better just knowing I'm going to get some real rest. Love you too, Red Heart. She could play this game. She'd been playing it for 12 years without even knowing it. Now she was playing it with full awareness and strategic intent. 3 hours later, Emma sat in the departure lounge at O'Hare International Airport, her carry-on bag at her feet. Her phone rang. It was Jessica. "Emma, Marcus has been working nonstop. You need to hear what he found. David's in worse shape than we thought. The gambling debts are over 200,000. He's borrowed from loan sharks who don't take kindly to non-payment. Your life insurance policy and inheritance are literally his only way out. This isn't just about starting fresh with Vanessa. This is about David's survival." "What about Vanessa?" Emma asked. "Is she involved in the murder plot?" Marcus found text messages between them discussing it explicitly. She knew. She encouraged it. "She's not just the mistress, Emma. She's an accomplice. We can prosecute her too." Emma felt a grim satisfaction. Vanessa had looked at her with contempt at that company party, had dismissed her as a weak, outdated obstacle. Vanessa was about to learn exactly how wrong she'd been. Marcus also tracked down this Anton Kuzma character. Jessica continued. "He's known to local authorities in Bali, but never been caught. The good news is Marcus has contacts with Indonesian police who've been trying to nail this guy for years. They're very interested in setting up a sting operation." "A sting operation?" Emma's heart raced. "You're going to help them catch Anton in the act, with full police backup. But Emma, this is dangerous. You'll be bait. Are you sure you want to do this?" Emma thought about the past 12 years. The career she'd given up. The friends she'd lost. The confidence David had systematically stripped away. The woman she'd become under his manipulation. Small, uncertain, dependent, forgettable. "I'm sure," she said. "David thinks he's sending a helpless victim to her death. He's about to find out he's sent his worst nightmare." "That's what I wanted to hear," Jessica said with satisfaction. "Marcus will be on the ground in Bali by tomorrow. He'll make contact with you at the resort. And Emma, stop being scared. Start being dangerous." The flight to Bali took 23 hours with a connection in Tokyo. Emma used every minute strategically. She read through all her text messages with David from the past year, seeing his manipulation with new eyes. Every, "I'm worried about you," was a building block in the narrative of her instability. Every, "Take your medication," was a reminder of the control he exerted. Every, "Maybe you shouldn't see your family this month," was another strand in the web of isolation. She documented it all, taking screenshots, making notes, building a timeline that showed the deliberate, methodical nature of David's gaslighting. This wasn't a man who'd snapped one day. This was a man who'd been executing a long-term strategy. On the flight, Emma also stopped taking the anxiety medication she'd dutifully brought in her carry-on. Her mind began to clear in a way it hadn't in 3 years. The constant fog lifted. The sensation of viewing life through thick glass dissipated. She felt sharp, alert, present in a way she'd almost forgotten was possible. 48 hours without the medication, and Emma realized something devastating. Most of her anxiety symptoms disappeared. The racing heart, the sense of impending doom, the difficulty concentrating. They'd been side effects of the medication itself, or perhaps symptoms of living under David's control, not evidence of an underlying mental illness. David had convinced her she was broken, then given her pills that made her feel broken, then used her broken state as evidence that she was too unstable to work, to have friends, to make decisions. It was a perfect closed loop of manipulation. The rage Emma felt was cold and focused. She wasn't going to confront David in anger. She was going to dismantle him with precision. When the plane finally landed in Denpasar, Bali, it was late afternoon, the air thick and humid and fragrant with tropical flowers. Emma collected her luggage and found the driver the resort had sent. The man held a sign reading, "Mrs. Emma Hartley, Amara Wellness Retreat." Mrs. Emma Hartley, the woman David expected to die here. The drive to Ubud took 90 minutes through increasingly lush landscape. Rice terraces cascaded down hillsides in impossible shades of green. Palm trees swayed in the breeze. Temples with ornate stone carvings appeared around every curve. It was breathtakingly beautiful, and Emma felt a pang of sadness that she couldn't simply enjoy it as a vacation. But this wasn't a vacation. This was a battlefield, and Emma intended to win. The Amara Wellness Retreat was even more luxurious than the brochure suggested. The main building was an open-air pavilion with soaring ceilings and panoramic views of the jungle. Individual villas were scattered across the hillside, each with private pools and outdoor showers. The staff greeted Emma with cool towels and fresh coconut water, their smiles genuine and welcoming. "Mrs. Hartley, welcome," said a graceful Indonesian woman who introduced herself as Dewey, the guest relations manager. Your villa is ready. Let me show you to your sanctuary for the next 2 weeks. Emma followed Dewey along a stone path that wound through tropical gardens. Her villa was perched on a hillside with sweeping views of the valley below. It was open and airy, with floor-to-ceiling windows that folded back completely to blend indoor and outdoor space. The infinity pool seemed to drop off into the jungle. The bathroom featured a massive soaking tub carved from volcanic stone. It was paradise. It was also, according to David's plan, supposed to be the last place Emma would ever see. Your husband mentioned you've been struggling with stress, Dewey said kindly. We have an excellent wellness program. Yoga, meditation, spa treatments, nutrition consultations. And of course, our location is perfect for reflection. We have beautiful walking trails, including the famous Clifftop Meditation Pavilion. The sunset views there are transcendent. Clifftop Meditation Pavilion. Emma's skin prickled. David had specifically mentioned that in his texts, had encouraged her to push herself to try cliffside activities. This was where it was supposed to happen. That sounds wonderful, Emma said, maintaining her role as the grateful wife. I can't wait to try everything. After Dewey left, Emma sat on her villa's terrace and called David. He answered on the first ring. Emma, you made it. How was the flight? His voice was warm, concerned, loving. If she hadn't heard his conversation with Vanessa, she would have believed every word. Long but fine, Emma replied. David, the resort is incredible. Thank you so much for this. You deserve it. Are you in your villa? Do you like it? It's beautiful. There's an infinity pool and this amazing view, and Emma paused deliberately. Oh, there's something strange though. What? David's voice sharpened slightly. Is everything okay? When I was checking in, they mentioned my return flight. But David, they said there's no return flight booked. Did something get mixed up with the travel agency? Silence. Just a beat too long. That's weird, David finally said. Let me call the agency tomorrow and sort it out. Don't worry about it, Em. Just enjoy yourself. Are you sure? I don't want to get stranded here. You won't get stranded. His voice had an edge now, irritation bleeding through the concern. I'll handle it. That's why I didn't want you to have to deal with any logistics. Just relax, okay? That's the whole point of this trip. Okay, Emma said meekly. You're right. I'm sorry for worrying. Don't apologize. Just have fun. Explore the resort. Try new things. Be adventurous. Be adventurous. Code for put yourself in dangerous situations. The guest relations manager mentioned something called the Clifftop Meditation Pavilion, Emma said. She said the sunset views are amazing. I think I'll try that tomorrow evening. Another pause. That sounds perfect, Em. Really push yourself to experience everything. Don't hold back. Don't hold back. Translation, make it easy for Anton. They talked for another few minutes. David asking detailed questions about the resort layout, her schedule, whether she'd be doing activities alone or with groups. Emma answered carefully, feeding him enough information to feel in control while revealing nothing about her true state of mind. When they hung up, Emma sat in the dimming light and allowed herself a small smile. David thought everything was going according to plan. He thought she was the same foggy, compliant woman he'd sent here to die. He had no idea that woman no longer existed. A soft knock on her villa door interrupted her thoughts. Emma opened it to find a Western woman in her early 40s standing there, elegant in a simple linen dress, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. Mrs. Hartley? I'm Dr. Sarah Patel. I'm also a guest here at the resort. Dewey mentioned you arrived today, and I thought I'd introduce myself. I hope that's not too forward. There was something in Dr. Patel's eyes, an intelligence and directness that put Emma immediately at ease. Please, call me Emma. And no, it's not forward at all. I'd love the company. Sarah smiled. I'm here recovering from a difficult divorce, and I find solo travel is both liberating and occasionally lonely. Would you like to join me for dinner? The resort has a wonderful restaurant, or we could eat here on your terrace. The sunset should be spectacular. Emma studied Sarah for a moment. There was something about her that felt safe, trustworthy. Let's eat here, she decided. And Dr. Patel, Sarah, please. Sarah, can I ask what kind of doctor you are? Psychiatrist. I practice in London, specializing in trauma and abuse recovery. Though I promise I'm off duty on vacation. She said it lightly, but Emma caught the way Sarah's eyes assessed her, professional even while relaxing. a psychiatrist specializing in trauma and abuse. Emma felt something click into place, as if the universe had just handed her exactly the ally she needed. Sarah, Emma said, making a decision, I need to tell you something. Something serious. And I need to know if I can trust you. Sarah's expression shifted, becoming more focused. Emma, I'm bound by medical ethics even on vacation. Anything you tell me is confidential. What's going on? Emma took a deep breath. My husband sent me here to die, and I need help making sure he's the one who ends up destroyed instead. Sarah didn't look shocked. She looked sad, knowing, as if she'd heard versions of this story too many times before. Come inside, she said gently. Tell me everything from the beginning. And Emma, whatever you're going through, you're not alone anymore. They spent the next 3 hours on Emma's terrace as the sun set over the jungle in impossible shades of orange and pink. Emma told Sarah everything. The years of manipulation, the systematic isolation, the medication that kept her foggy, the panic attacks that started so conveniently, the overheard conversation revealing the murder plot, the evidence she'd gathered, the allies she'd recruited. Sarah listened without interruption, occasionally asking clarifying questions that showed her professional training. When Emma finished, Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Emma, she finally said, what you're describing is textbook coercive control. Your husband has been engaging in a form of abuse that's often invisible to outsiders because it doesn't leave physical marks. He's systematically undermined your reality, isolated you from support systems, created financial dependency, and documented you as mentally unstable, all to set up a situation where he can eliminate you and face no consequences. This isn't just attempted murder. This is years of psychological torture. Hearing it laid out so clinically should have been devastating. Instead, Emma felt validated. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't overreacting. A trained psychiatrist was confirming that what had happened to her was real abuse, not her imagination or anxiety. The medication, Emma said. Was I ever really mentally ill? Or did David create that too? Sarah hesitated. I can't diagnose you without a proper evaluation, but I can tell you this. Anxiety disorders are real and serious. However, they're also frequently misdiagnosed in women who are experiencing situational stress, particularly stress from abusive relationships. The symptoms of living with a controlling, manipulative partner, hypervigilance, difficulty concentrating, panic, depression, can look identical to generalized anxiety disorder. It's possible you never needed medication at all. It's also possible the medication you were given wasn't appropriate for you, or was deliberately prescribed to keep you sedated and compliant. How is that legal? Emma demanded. It often isn't, but it requires proving that a doctor knowingly prescribed inappropriately, which is very difficult. Emma, the important thing now isn't looking backward at what might have been. It's looking forward to how we keep you safe and ensure David faces justice. Tell me about this sting operation your friend Jessica mentioned. They strategized late into the night. Sarah had unexpected resources. She'd worked with domestic violence organizations for years and had contacts in international law enforcement through her trauma work. She made calls to colleagues in Jakarta who knew the Indonesian police officers Jessica's investigator Marcus was working with. By midnight, they had a plan. Marcus would arrive the next day and meet Emma at the resort under the pretense of being another guest. The Indonesian police, who'd been trying to catch Anton Kuzuma for years, would set up surveillance around the resort. Emma would continue her performance as the unsuspecting wife, mentioning her plans for clifftop walks and sunset meditations in her calls to David. When Anton made his move, police would be positioned to intervene before Emma was ever in real danger. But here's the critical thing, Sarah emphasized. We need David's communications with Anton. We need proof that David hired him specifically to kill you. Otherwise, we can arrest Anton, but David walks away claiming he had nothing to do with it. Marcus is working on that, Emma said. He's trying to hack into David's offshore accounts and find the financial trail. Sarah nodded. Good. But we also need Anton to give up David directly. Which means when Anton approaches you, you need to get him talking. Record everything. Get him to admit who hired him and what he was hired to do. How am I supposed to do that without him realizing I'm recording? Sarah smiled. Because you're not going to be the fragile woman David described. You're going to be smart, strategic, and several steps ahead. When Anton approaches, you'll have backup you can see and backup you can't. You'll be protected. But Emma, you also need to trust yourself. You were a successful executive before David broke you down. That woman is still there. It's time to bring her back. Emma felt a surge of confidence she hadn't experienced in years. I'm ready. The next morning, Emma woke early and went to the resort's yoga pavilion for sunrise practice. She needed to be seen, to establish routines, to play the role David expected. About a dozen other guests were there, including a muscular Western man in his late 30s who seemed oddly alert for someone supposedly on a relaxation retreat. After class, as Emma was rolling up her mat, the man approached her. Great session, he said in a neutral American accent. First time at Amara? Yes, Emma replied. I'm here for 2 weeks. You? Same. Needed a break from the world. He extended his hand. Marcus Reed. Emma kept her face neutral, but her heart skipped. This was Jessica's investigator, making contact in the most natural way possible. Emma Hartley. Pleasure. Hey, a few of us are planning to hike to that famous waterfall this afternoon. Want to join? Always safer in groups on unfamiliar trails. The message was clear. Stay in groups. Don't be alone yet. That sounds wonderful, Emma said. What time? They made plans to meet after lunch, and Emma spent the morning appearing to relax by her private pool while actually studying everything Marcus had sent her overnight. He'd found David's financial records, including the $10,000 deposit wired to an account in Bali with the notation, services rendered, AK. He'd found emails between David and Anton outlining the plan in careful, coded language. He'd found proof that Vanessa had transferred money from her own account to help cover the deposit, making her an active participant in the conspiracy. The evidence was building, but they needed the final piece. Anton caught in the act with testimony directly implicating David. That afternoon, Emma joined a group hike that included Marcus and 4 other guests, plus a local guide. The trail wound through dense jungle to a stunning waterfall that cascaded into a clear pool. Everyone swam and took photos, and to any outside observer, Emma looked like a normal tourist enjoying her vacation. But the entire time, Marcus was quietly briefing her. Anton's been spotted on the resort grounds. He's posing as a freelance meditation instructor, offering private sessions. The resort hasn't verified his credentials, but they sometimes allow local practitioners to work with guests. He's going to approach you soon. When he does, play along. Agree to a private session. The police will have the cliff pavilion completely surrounded, and I'll be in position with clear sight lines. You'll never be in actual danger, but you need to get him to talk. What if he doesn't say anything incriminating? Emma asked. He will. These guys are arrogant. They think their clients are too smart to get caught, so they don't worry about discretion. Get him comfortable. Act naive. Ask questions about his experience with guests. He'll brag. They always do. That evening, as Emma was having dinner at the resort restaurant, a man approached her table. He was Indonesian, early 40s, fit and calm with the bearing of someone who practiced meditation. He wore loose linen clothes and moved with deliberate grace. Excuse me, he said in lightly accented English. I am Anton, a meditation instructor. I work with Amara guests sometimes, offering private sessions in advanced mindfulness techniques. I noticed you at yoga this morning. Very good practice. Would you be interested in a private session? I specialize in working with guests who are managing stress and anxiety. Emma's skin crawled, but she kept her face open and friendly. How did you know I have anxiety? Anton smiled. Your breathing patterns during yoga. Also, Dewey mentioned you're here for wellness and recovery. Many guests come to Bali to heal emotional wounds. I help them find peace. Help them find peace. Euphemism for helping them find death. That sounds wonderful, Emma said. When would you suggest? Tomorrow evening. Sunset meditation at the Clifftop Pavilion. The energy there is very powerful. Perfect for releasing fear and embracing transformation. Releasing fear. Embracing transformation. Emma wanted to laugh at the absurdity of the coded language. Instead, she nodded enthusiastically. That sounds perfect. What time? 6:30. The light will be ideal. Come alone. Group energy can be distracting for deep work. Come alone. Of course. I'll be there, Emma promised. After Anton left, Emma immediately texted Marcus. Contact made. Clifftop session tomorrow 6:30. His reply came seconds later. Perfect. Everything is in place. Remember, you're protected. Now go call David and tell him your plans. Emma returned to her villa and called her husband. David answered immediately, probably having been waiting by his phone all day. How was your day? Amazing, Emma said, injecting enthusiasm into her voice. I went on a hike to this beautiful waterfall, and then tonight at dinner I met this wonderful meditation instructor named Anton. He's going to do a private session with me tomorrow evening at the Clifftop Pavilion. Apparently, it's this incredibly powerful spiritual location. The satisfaction in David's voice was barely concealed. That sounds perfect, Em. Really perfect. Private session, you said? Just you and the instructor? Yes, just us. He said group energy can be distracting. David, I'm actually really looking forward to it. I feel like I'm finally starting to let go of my anxiety. Like I'm transforming into someone new. I'm so glad. David's voice was warm, loving, and utterly false. You deserve this transformation, Em. You deserve to finally find peace. They talked for a few more minutes, and Emma carefully didn't mention Marcus or Sarah or the group activities she'd done. She painted a picture of herself as isolated, vulnerable, exactly where David wanted her. When they hung up, Emma sat on her terrace and thought about the next evening. In less than 24 hours, Anton would try to kill her on that clifftop. David would be in Chicago, surrounded by witnesses, waiting for the call that his wife had tragically fallen to her death. Instead, David was going to get a very different call, one that would destroy his life completely. Emma spent the next day carefully preparing. She met with Marcus and Sarah to review the plan. She practiced recording conversations on her phone. She memorized the exact layout of the Clifftop Pavilion based on photos Marcus had taken. She prepared questions designed to make Anton incriminate himself without seeming suspicious. Most importantly, she practiced being the old Emma, the confident Emma, the woman who'd negotiated million-dollar deals and outsmarted competitors. That woman needed to come back now because the stakes had never been higher. At 6:15 the next evening, Emma walked up the stone path toward the Clifftop Pavilion. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber. The path wound upward through tropical gardens, becoming narrower and more isolated as it approached the cliff edge. Emma could feel her heart racing, but it wasn't anxiety. It was adrenaline, anticipation. She knew Marcus was positioned in the jungle with telephoto surveillance equipment. She knew Indonesian police officers were hidden at strategic points around the pavilion. She knew Sarah was monitoring everything from the resort's security center, ready to intervene if anything went wrong. But none of them could walk this path for her. This was Emma's moment. Her confrontation. Her chance to take back everything David had stolen from her over 12 years of manipulation. The Clifftop Pavilion was exactly as beautiful as promised. It was an open wooden platform built at the edge of a sheer cliff, with nothing between the meditation space and a 200-foot drop to the ocean below. Prayer flags fluttered in the evening breeze. Meditation cushions were arranged in a semicircle facing the sunset. The view was transcendent, endless ocean meeting endless sky in perfect harmony. It was also the perfect place for murder. Anton was already there, sitting cross-legged on a cushion, his eyes closed as if in meditation. He didn't open them when Emma approached, maintaining his peaceful instructor persona. "Welcome, Emma," he said quietly. "Please, sit here beside me. Face the horizon. Breathe deeply. Let go of all fear." Emma sat on the cushion he'd indicated, the one closest to the cliff edge, she noticed, and arranged her legs in a meditation pose. Her phone was in the pocket of her loose yoga pants, already recording. Marcus had promised her the sound quality would be good enough. "Now," Anton said, his voice smooth and calming. "Close your eyes. Feel the energy of this sacred place. You are here to transform, to become something new, to let go of your old life completely. Let go of your old life." Emma kept her eyes closed as instructed, but her mind was sharp and alert. "How many guests have you worked with here?" she asked, making her voice sound dreamy and receptive. "Many," Anton replied. "Many people come to Bali seeking transformation, seeking release from lives that no longer serve them. I help them find that release." "Do you work at the resort officially?" "I am independent. I work with guests who need special help. Discreet help. Help their families have arranged for them. Discreet help. Families have arranged." Emma's recording was capturing everything. "That's interesting," she said. "My husband arranged this whole trip for me. He said I needed to transform, to find peace. He specifically said I should try the clifftop experiences." "Your husband sounds very caring." Anton's voice had a slight edge now. He wants the best for you. Does he? Emma opened her eyes and looked directly at Anton. The sun was lower now, the light turning reddish. Anton's face was half in shadow. Or does he want me dead so he can inherit my estate and start a new life with his mistress? Anton froze. For just a second, his serene mask slipped, and Emma saw calculation in his eyes. Then he recovered, laughing lightly. You have a very active imagination, Emma. This is perhaps why you need meditation, to quiet the anxious thoughts. Is it imagination? Emma pressed, her voice steady and clear. Or is it reality? Tell me, Anton, what did my husband pay you? 10,000 up front, 40,000 upon completion? That's a significant amount of money for meditation instruction. Anton's expression went cold. The pretense of spiritual teacher evaporated completely. You know, he said flatly. It wasn't a question. I know everything, Emma replied. I know my husband hired you to kill me and make it look like an accident. I know he's been planning this for years. I know he thinks I'm a weak, broken woman who'll be easy to eliminate. What I don't know is how you plan to do it. Were you going to push me off the cliff, drug me, and arrange my body to look like I jumped? I'm genuinely curious about the details. Anton stared at her, his mind clearly working through his options. They were alone on this isolated clifftop. Emma was a slight woman. He was a trained killer. He could complete the job right now and deal with the consequences later. Who else knows? He asked carefully. About you specifically? Just me. Emma let the lie sit between them. But about David's plan? Multiple people. Lawyers. Investigators. If anything happens to me, David goes to prison. So here's what I'm offering you, Anton. A way out. A way out. He was listening now, intrigued despite himself. You give evidence against David. Full cooperation with authorities. Testimony about who hired you, how much he paid, what he asked you to do. In exchange, you get a plea deal. Reduced charges. Maybe even witness protection if you're worried about David's connections. Emma was making this up as she went, but she knew it sounded plausible. Otherwise, you complete the job, I die, and you still get caught because the police already know everything. David rolls on you to save himself, and you spend the rest of your life in an Indonesian prison. This way, at least you walk away eventually. Anton considered this. You're bluffing. If police knew, they'd be here now. Are you sure about that? Emma asked. She pulled out her phone and held it up. I've been recording our entire conversation. You've already admitted knowledge of the plan. But more than that, she gestured toward the jungle behind them. You didn't really think I came here alone, did you? As if on cue, Marcus stepped out of the foliage, followed by 3 Indonesian police officers in plain clothes. They'd been there the whole time, weapons drawn, ready to intervene if Anton made any aggressive moves. Anton's face went through a rapid series of expressions: shock, rage, calculation, and finally resignation. He knew when he was beaten. One of the police officers stepped forward and identified himself in English. Anton Kazuma, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent. As they handcuffed Anton and read him his rights, Emma stood at the cliff edge and looked out at the sunset. The sky was burning now, brilliant orange and deep red, the sun touching the horizon. The beauty of it hit her suddenly. She was alive. She was free. She had won. Marcus approached her. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Probably both. Did you get everything? Emma asked. Audio, video, the whole thing. Between this recording and what we've already gathered, David is finished. Anton will flip on him to get a deal. These guys always do. By the time you fly back to Chicago in 2 weeks, David will be in custody. No, Emma said firmly. By the time I fly back to Chicago tomorrow, David will be in custody. I'm not staying here another day. I'm going home to watch him get arrested. Marcus grinned. You know what? Fair enough. Let's get you on a plane. That night, Emma sat in her villa while Sarah made her a cup of tea and Marcus handled the logistics of changing her flight. The police had taken Anton into custody. He'd already started talking, confirming everything. The money, the plan, David's specific instructions about making it look accidental. The evidence was overwhelming. Emma called Jessica to update her. We got him. All of them. The recording is perfect. Anton is cooperating, and I'm coming home tomorrow. Emma, Jessica said, and her voice was thick with emotion. I'm so proud of you. You could have fallen apart. You could have stayed a victim. Instead, you turned yourself into a weapon and destroyed the man who tried to destroy you. I had help, Emma said, looking at Sarah, who raised her teacup in a silent toast. Yes, but you did the hard part. You trusted yourself again. You believed your own perceptions. You stopped being the woman David created and became the woman you actually are. After they hung up, Emma sat on her terrace and thought about what came next. The legal proceedings, the divorce, the rebuilding of her life. It would all be complicated and probably painful. But for the first time in 12 years, Emma felt like herself. Sharp, capable, dangerous in the best possible way. She called David one last time. He answered immediately, as always. How was your meditation session? Did you and Anton have a good connection? The false concern in his voice no longer hurt her. It just sounded pathetic now, desperate. Oh, David, Emma said, letting all the coldness she felt seep into her voice. Anton and I had a wonderful connection. We talked about so many things. His work with other guests, his arrangements with various clients, his financial transactions. It was incredibly enlightening. There was a pause, a long, terrible pause as David's mind worked through the implications. Emma, his voice had changed completely, all pretense gone. What did you do? What did I do? Emma laughed, and it felt good. I survived, David. I survived your murder plot. I documented everything. I gathered evidence. I built a case. And right now, Anton Kuzuma is in police custody, giving them every detail of the plan you hired him to execute. Every message, every payment, every instruction. You're lying. But his voice was shaking. Am I? Check your accounts, David. Check the $10,000 wire transfer to _Bali services. Check your emails with Vanessa discussing my insurance policy. Check the second mortgage you fraudulently took out on our house. It's all been found. It's all been documented. And tomorrow, when I fly home, you're going to be arrested for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and fraud. Emma, please, don't, she interrupted. Don't try to talk your way out of this. Don't try to manipulate me. Don't use that voice you've used for 12 years to make me doubt myself. It doesn't work anymore, David. I'm not the woman you married. I'm not even the woman you spent 3 years breaking down and controlling. I'm someone new. Someone you helped create, actually. Because when you systematically destroy a person and they survive anyway, they come back stronger, smarter, and absolutely done with your bullshit. I love you. David tried. One last desperate manipulation. You don't know what love is, Emma replied. But you're about to learn what consequences are. Oh, and David, Vanessa's going to prison too, as an accessory. So you'll both have plenty of time to think about the life you thought you'd have with my money. Goodbye. She hung up and immediately blocked his number. Whatever David was doing now, panicking, calling lawyers, possibly trying to flee, she didn't care. It wasn't her problem anymore. Marcus knocked on her villa door. Your flight's confirmed for tomorrow afternoon. You'll be home by Friday morning. Chicago police are coordinating with the DA's office. There will be a warrant waiting when David tries to go to work tomorrow. Perfect, Emma said. I want to be there. I want to see his face when they arrest him. I think that can be arranged, Marcus replied with a slight smile. That night, Emma barely slept, but it wasn't anxiety. It was anticipation. She packed her suitcase, organized her documents, prepared herself mentally for what came next. At dawn, she stood on her villa's terrace one last time and watched the sun rise over Bali. The island was beautiful, peaceful, the kind of place that should have been a sanctuary. David had intended it to be her grave. Instead, it had been her resurrection. The flight home was surreal. Emma watched movies, ate meals, dozed occasionally, and thought about her future. She'd need a place to live. She wasn't going back to the house she'd shared with David. She'd need to rebuild her career, though Jessica had already mentioned consulting opportunities. She'd need therapy, probably, to process 12 years of systematic abuse and the trauma of nearly being murdered. But for the first time in over a decade, Emma felt excited about her life rather than afraid of it. When the plane landed at O'Hare on Friday morning, Jessica was waiting at arrivals with a huge smile and an even bigger hug. Welcome home, warrior. Did they arrest him? Emma asked immediately. This morning, at his office. Vanessa was arrested simultaneously at their apartment. Yes, apartment. He'd been living with her part-time for months. David tried to claim diplomatic immunity, which obviously he doesn't have. Then he tried to blame everything on Vanessa. Then he asked for his lawyer. He's being held without bail pending trial. Emma felt a wave of satisfaction so intense it was almost physical. I want to see him. Already arranged. You have a meeting with the DA this afternoon, and they're bringing David in for questioning. You can watch from the observation room. The district attorney's office was in downtown Chicago, all glass and steel and bureaucratic efficiency. DA Carlos Mendez met with Emma personally, reviewed all the evidence Marcus had gathered, and listened to the recording Emma had made of her conversation with Anton. Mrs. Hartley, Mendez said when everything was laid out, this is one of the most thoroughly documented attempted murder cases I've ever seen. Between the financial evidence, the communications with the hired killer, the recorded confession, and Anton Kuzuma's testimony, we have David dead to rights. He's looking at 25 years to life. What about Vanessa? Emma asked. As an accessory and for financial fraud, probably 8 to 10 years. She knew about the plan and actively helped finance it. That makes her culpable. Mendez led Emma to an observation room with a one-way mirror looking into an interrogation room. He'll be brought in shortly. You don't have to watch this if it's too difficult. I want to watch, Emma said firmly. 5 minutes later, 2 officers brought David into the interrogation room. He looked terrible. His expensive clothes were rumpled, his hair uncombed, his confident facade completely shattered. When the lawyer sitting beside him tried to speak, David waved him off and stared at the mirror as if he could see through it. I know you're there, Emma, he said to his own reflection. I know you're watching, and I need you to understand something. I never meant for it to come to this. I never wanted to hurt you. The debts were so bad. I didn't know what else to do. Emma watched her husband of 12 years try one final manipulation and felt nothing but contempt. My client wishes to negotiate a plea agreement, David's lawyer said. No plea agreement, Mendez replied through the intercom. Your client attempted to murder his wife. He will stand trial, be convicted, and serve the maximum sentence. The only question is whether you want to make this easy or hard. David's face crumpled. He put his head in his hands and started to cry. It might have been genuine emotion, or it might have been performance. Emma no longer cared which. She turned away from the window. I'm done here. I've seen enough. Jessica put an arm around her shoulders. Let's get you somewhere comfortable. You need rest. Real rest, not the kind David pretended you needed. Over the next months, Emma slowly rebuilt her life. She moved into a small apartment in Lincoln Park, paid for with money from the sale of the marital home after the courts sorted out the fraudulent mortgages. She started consulting work, leveraging her old marketing contacts and discovering that her skills, while rusty, were still sharp. The trial was front-page news. David's defense tried everything, claiming Emma had manipulated the evidence, suggesting she was mentally unstable and had fabricated the whole thing, even implying that Anton had acted independently without David's knowledge. None of it worked. The evidence was too strong. The recordings too clear. Anton's testimony too detailed. David was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 23 years in prison. Vanessa received 7 years. Emma testified at the sentencing hearing. Standing in front of the judge, facing David one last time, she felt powerful in a way she'd never imagined possible. Your Honor, she said, her voice clear and steady. David Hartley didn't just try to kill me. He spent 12 years systematically destroying who I was. He isolated me from friends and family. He convinced me to give up my career. He undermined my confidence at every turn. He gaslit me into believing I was mentally ill. He medicated me into compliance. He built an elaborate construction of lies designed to make my eventual murder seem inevitable, even expected. What David didn't realize was that the woman he was trying to erase, the confident, strategic, capable woman I was before I met him, was still inside me. She was buried, suppressed, almost destroyed. But not quite. And when I finally understood what he'd done, when I finally saw the truth, that woman came back stronger than ever. David thought sending me away would be the end of me. Instead, it was the beginning. He wanted me gone. But what disappeared was the woman he'd created, the one who doubted herself, who believed she was fragile, who thought she needed him to survive. I hope he spends every day of the next 23 years thinking about that. Thinking about how he helped create the very person who brought him down. After the sentencing, Emma walked out of the courthouse with Jessica, Sarah, who'd flown in from London for the trial, and Marcus. They had champagne waiting in Jessica's car, and they drove to the lake to toast Emma's new life. To Emma Hartley, Sarah said, raising her glass, who taught us all that survival is just the beginning. Revenge is so much more satisfying. Not revenge, Emma corrected with a smile. Justice. Revenge is emotional. Justice is strategic. And I've always been very good at strategy. 3 years later, Emma stood in her new office at Hartley Consulting Group, looking out at the Chicago skyline. Her company specialized in helping women rebuild their careers after major life disruptions, divorce, caregiving, abuse recovery. She'd built it from nothing into a thriving business with 25 employees and clients across the country. She was dating a kind man named Thomas, a high school teacher with no interest in controlling her and tremendous respect for her independence. They saw each other twice a week, maintained separate homes, and talked about possibly moving in together in a year or two. There was no rush. Emma had learned that she didn't need to be in a relationship to be complete. Jessica had become her business partner, and they ran a nonprofit on the side that helped abuse victims document evidence and build legal cases. Sarah visited from London twice a year, and they'd become close enough that Emma thought of her as the sister she'd never had. Marcus still did occasional investigation work for the consulting firm and jokingly called himself Emma's muscle. David's first parole hearing was in 18 years. Emma didn't plan to attend. She'd already said everything she needed to say to him, and he was irrelevant to her life now. On her office wall, Emma had framed something, not an award or a degree, but a quote she'd written herself the day after the trial ended. My husband thought sending me away would be the end of me. Instead, it was the beginning. He wanted me gone, but what disappeared was the woman he'd created, the one who doubted herself, who believed she was incapable, who thought she needed him to survive. In Bali, I didn't find relaxation. I found myself, and that self was strong enough to destroy the man who tried to destroy her. Occasionally, when new clients came to Emma's office, young women who'd been broken down by controlling partners, who believed they were too weak or damaged to rebuild their lives, Emma would tell them her story. She'd tell them about David, about Bali, about turning a murder trap into a courtroom victory. And she'd end by saying, "You are stronger than the person who hurt you wants you to believe. You have resources you don't know about yet. And when you finally decide to fight back, you're going to win. Not because winning is easy, but because you're going to be smarter, more strategic, and more determined than they ever expected." They thought they were fighting a victim. They're actually fighting a survivor. And there's no more dangerous opponent than someone who has nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Emma Hartley had been a victim for 12 years. Then she'd been a target for 2 weeks. Now she was a force of nature, helping other women transform from prey to predator, from controlled to autonomous, from erased to empowered. David had wanted her dead. Instead, he'd killed the version of her he'd created and unleashed the woman she'd always been meant to be. And that woman was unstoppable.